ID Talk here from Identity Week Amsterdam. I'm Dave Barkley, and I'm here with
Alex Perello.
And we are honored to have the CEO of Entrust here on the podcast, Tony Ball. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm good. Good to see you, Dave and Alex.
Yeah.
Now, Tony, can you tell us where do you come from, where did you grow up, and how did you end up in identity?
Born in Bournemouth, south coast of the UK. Grown up in payment identity, 35 plus years doing this. For me, it's a passion. It's something that I believe in, never more so now than the agentic world. Grown up through the Talis IDs, Talis DIS of this world, ASAB or HID, and now taking over the reins as the CEO of Entrust. So couldn't be more thrilled, frankly.
Yeah, it's a great time to be in that kind of real decision maker position, especially with like the background that you just laid out. So you mentioned that increasingly use word agentic just now. Do you think that's kind of the key trend at Identity Week? We're recording here. It's like kind of a buzzy term, as we were discussing before we started recording.
Yeah, if you want to pick up a trend, everybody is an identity, whether they're in identity or not.
Right.
And just as a reminder, Entrust is a global identity-centric company and been doing it for 55 years. Mm-hmm. So it's in our DNA.
That's different from my identity company, which I started
today.
and our mission is to fight fraud and prevent cyber threats. Mm. So that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I'm focused on. So I think the agentic narrative that we're seeing right now is just a massive accelerator to how we bring about a stronger trust layer, how we put the right wrapper around identity, both human and non-human. So it's not just about agentic, which is transformational. It's about how do those two things actually coexist, and how do humans stay at the center of the decision making.
Yeah, and I guess it's like important also to clarify that, as you say, like everybody's an identity company now. It's a buzzy term, but there is that's a real problem that has to be dealt with. Just because everybody's hopping on the bandwagon doesn't mean it's not real. Like it's a real issue that has to be tackled.
It is. I think there's an identity crisis right now. I think us as human beings are struggling how to assert our identity. We're also feeling somewhat vulnerable in terms of the number of let's say, areas that we could be vulnerable from, right? It's coming from your onboarding if you're dealing with opening a new account, for example. It's whether you're traveling somewhere and looking to get to the right place or a high value transaction. All of those points give you concern at the moment. And whether that's now going to be conducted by a human or it's going to be conducted by an agent, it's just another multiplier to the trust layer question that you have.
Yeah. And sorry.
What do you think is going to happen if this crisis is not addressed? Is just the complete lack of trust in systems?
You're going to find more and more infrastructure, if it's not invested in to keep up, will stop. Will stop spinning, right? So just think about getting into Amsterdam, crossing borders. If you find borders are not able to keep up with the number of people, they just shut them down. If it's taking too much resource, that causes pain and frustration. So these are good examples, and we're only scratching the surface of where we need to think in the same way about when you're transacting, when you're looking to go about your business. And the speed of change is going to be so quick that, we're talking about banks today who are challenging employees to have 10 agents in this calendar year as part of the productivity curve.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not able to keep up with how are those agents going to be given privileges? How is an agent given a birth certificate, a death certificate? What privilege access does it have? How do you know the agent is performing in the way you expected it to perform?
Yeah.
You need some type of check and balance to that. Cannot go unguardrailed.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but what you just said is really interesting. The idea that at companies, they're like some executive might be like, we need more agents, not even knowing what it is, which is that must be happening because we're already getting stories about, with just AI adoption. They'll say, okay, I want you spending this much on compute every month, and then people have to just figure it out.
Exactly right. Yeah. So the basic premise of this is you've got to look at workflows and you've got to look at how do you improve them.
Yeah.
Agentic is a great instrument for that. wonderful. But now you're thinking about, well, I could have an agent to manage my strategic planning process. I could have an agent to manage my calendar. I could have an agent to manage my investment portfolio. Well, at some point, you're going to manage the agents. And you've also got to make sure that they're doing the things that you intended them to do. So there's a productivity gain, great, but there's also a risk profile that you're introducing. How do you manage both of those things?
Yeah.
And from an identity-centric perspective, there's a strong view that Entrust has, and I think it's something that will coalesce here, is how do you keep the human, the hard human, at the center of that decision-making? It's not to say that agents are not important and won't have a role to play. They do. But you've got to make sure that you have the right checks and balances. And I think the view that you're going to have to insert yourself using biometric attributes are probably going to be the more, let's say, assertive way and confident way that you can go about it.
Yeah. And so can you like expand on what that would look like in an enterprise? Is it that, let's say, somebody has an agent that is meant to help them with an aspect of their job.
Yeah.
And then are they like biometrically signing at a certain stage when the agent is working, or how does Entrust?
So think of it this way. You just joined Meta tomorrow, brand new employee. Best thing Meta can do is onboard you as a employee and use a biometric attribute to do it.
Right.
Now let's store that. Let's store that in a database. I could store it on device. Now I know it's you. When I ask for you to be reasserted, I can call on that biometric whenever you're in a moment of truth, a moment of concern. So let's call that up if you're being asked to conduct a high-level purchase on behalf of Meta. And somebody's concerned about the fact that that agent is going to do it and it's Meta threshold. Well, let's ask the human to have oversight, in fact.
That's the
So
moment
you
of truth where you defer to the
use the human to do that.
Yeah.
Now, a bit like contactless payment. When contactless payment was introduced, you probably had thresholds of 20 euros.
Yeah,
right?
right.
You could get it from McDonald's or a drive-through. Now, your contactless purchases are in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Why? Because they've got other attributes that they're looking at to give them the confidence to say that contactless transaction could take place. Well, all of those things that have been built over time to give that confidence, I want them now.
Yeah.
The agentic world is not going to give you the time to figure those things out. You got to do it now.
Yeah. So are you leading that? Like, I'm just curious with, Entrust is a big company with
Yes.
presumably like quite a few clients who
Yes.
are starting to deal with these issues.
Yes.
Are you finding that you have to kind of lead them to the right way to look at it, or are they coming to you proactively and saying, we need your help figuring this out?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
And it depends on which geography you find that in. If you take UAE, for example, it's probably one of the most advanced agentic countries on the planet in terms of the way they've adopted it from the top down and the bottom up. If you take Europe is very comfortable with biometric onboarding and using biometric to assert themselves. And let's get fraud at the door. If you go to the US, there isn't that level of tolerance in a user experience, convenient-based world where we'll look at fraud on the back end. So depending on whether you're operating in a consumer world, you're operating in a citizen world or a workforce arena, the rules are slightly different. So depending on the compelling need at that time, we might get called in to a situation where we're being asked to help right at the tip of the spear, the forefront of the concern. In others, we might be educating those who don't necessarily know how this is going to get disrupted or changed and say, you need to be looking at this and you need to be looking at it now.
Right.
That's where Entrust helps.
Yeah.
That's the trust layer that we provide that underpins identity.
Right.
And Tony, you've just become CEO this year, right?
Yep.
And you described it yourself as a moment of crisis. Does that get your heart racing?
Absolutely.
That you're
I
stepping
think
in right at this moment?
it is an identity crisis that I think people are going through right now. And it's how do I ensure that the identity is trusted, whether it's human or non-human? And when you consider the speed with which fraud is moving, it's at industrial pace. It's a profession. Okay? When you think about the fraud, I think it's $10 trillion of fraud we saw this fiscal year. Only the US and China has a GDP that's bigger than $10 trillion.
Right.
That puts it into perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nvidia's market cap's at 5 trillion.
Yeah.
That gives you some idea of the speed of change.
Yeah.
This is not like anything else we've been through. People
Yeah,
talk
it is.
about the Industrial Revolution. This is an identity revolution.
And I was just gonna add, it's lopsided as well. Like you were sort of what you were saying just a few moments ago, that you have to kind of approach customers in different regions in different ways. And I know that there's a concern that AI is advancing very rapidly in certain regions and not others, and those others are going to be late, I guess, in identifying these security gaps, which I guess is where you need to come in and be like, you need help.
Well, agentic is Anthropic is moving at a point where it can use agents now, and what you can predict is that you're going to have data leaks. You're going to have cyber attacks that are based on agentic, right? That's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen more frequently. It's not if you are impacted by this, it's just when you're impacted by it. So organizations are going to have to think far differently than they ever have about how do they build the guardrails, how do they build the trust layer in their organizations to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
How do you stay current on the latest version of your software? Because if you're leaving legacy environments, they are far more vulnerable. You're going to have situations where SaaS providers are going to say, we're not going to patch legacy systems. That's a field day for agentic.
Yeah.
Organizations are going to find themselves pulled to their knees if they don't address it.
Do you think there's anything that companies are sort of broadly getting wrong about getting ready for this? Like, is there a bad approach, or is there like a particularly good approach that's ignored?
Well, one approach I would not recommend is do nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody who's doing nothing, that's
My usual approach to life's problems.
and it's quite interesting. So, for example, how many agents have you built yourself?
Me?
Yeah,
Zero.
A few,
Okay.
but it's experimental.
Good.
Yes.
Right. So you're definitely in the do nothing category.
Yeah.
My heartfelt
Probably, yeah.
advice is start experimenting with agents. So, for example, one of the things we launched internally at Entrust, we have 50 AI champions that have been developed to reverse mentor the senior leadership. I've had a reverse mentor for 3 months in preparation to come into the role. Why? Because I need to understand how quickly this world is moving and how the next generation is going to look at this. You're going to have children whose first job is probably going to be managing agents,
Yeah. Right.
not actually building them.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So the point being, organizations that are running too quickly are going to potentially find themselves without the appropriate guardrails, right? Think of Formula One, right? Formula One is advanced on both levels. It advanced on how drivers are so good at navigating very difficult situations. But you had to level up with safety. You had to provide the guardrails because the consequences of people going too fast, you know what happens to drivers who go too fast, right? That's why that industry needed to get, well, it is an industry that got regulated.
Sport, yeah.
That sport. It's the same thing. Think of it that way. We have to keep up very, very quickly. If not, organizations are going to fall flat on their face for going too fast, and others are going to be much more vulnerable for not having done anything.
Yeah.
So do I have a perfect recipe? No, but I can tell you that you shouldn't be doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, what is it, like? I know we're just about out of time, but what if you could offer like parting words of advice for any organizations that might be a little behind the curve on this? What's like the number one priority or top few priorities?
So activate your organization both from a top down and a bottoms up. From a top down, pick the areas within your organization that you think have the best opportunities to be beneficiaries of AI, both in terms of your customer engagement model, but also in terms of your productivity matrix. Make sure you're very clear on the data sets that you need to support those ambitions. Make sure you put an AI governance team in place that can help you. Ensure that you've got agents that you've approved that are working for you, okay? And then launch projects through pilot phases, share your experiences, share them broadly, and then build momentum in the organization. And as you begin to get that traction, you learn from it, then invest at scale. Not everything will be what you want it to be. Not everything will be a success. But if you take a very controlled approach, I think you can garner huge success for an organization's growth and profit.
Great advice. Make sure you have someone in place who understands. That's great advice. Yeah, thanks so much, Tony.
It was a pleasure.
This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to spend time with you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.